There is a precise moment, often imperceptible, when it is no longer you who is pursuing, but the other who begins to seek you out. This moment does not arrive by chance. It is triggered when you stop begging for a place in a story that no longer respects you, and you become the center of your own existence again. This is not a hidden technique, nor a power play. It is a profound truth. Conscious detachment has a force that supplication will never have. When you withdraw your energy from that which drains you, it becomes magnetic. It is not revenge, it is an elevation. And it is precisely this elevation that disrupts the dynamics, that awakens the absence in their mind and transforms your pain into silent power. What you will discover here is not a method for manipulating someone, but a spiritual revelation on how to rediscover your value and become again that presence that cannot be ignored. There is a power few truly understand, the power to quietly withdraw, not out of weakness, but out of mastery. When someone walks away from you, your whole being is tempted to run after them, to fill that unbearable emptiness growing in your chest. But it is precisely in this emptiness that lies the greatest opportunity for transformation. This moment, as painful as it may seem, is not an end. It is a tipping point. There is an invisible line that is crossed, the line that separates emotional dependence from inner sovereignty. When you stop talking, stopping seeking explanations, stopping waiting for answers, you create a breach in the rhythm the other person has come to know. Your absence becomes a silent language their mind cannot ignore. Where your words were once predictable, silence becomes an enigma. And enigmas, unlike the obvious, attract. This silence is not a punishment or a cold strategy. It is a reaffirmation of your value. It is saying without speaking, I am not here to beg to exist in your life. Human beings are deeply sensitive to contrasts. What they have every day becomes background noise. What they lose, even for a moment, becomes a silent obsession. As long as you are accessible, your presence fades into habit. But when you remove that presence, it becomes heavy. It imprints itself on their thoughts like a missing piece in a puzzle they thought was complete. This is the paradox of value. It always increases when it is no longer available. Silence, in its spiritual essence, is a door. It does not belong to the one who receives it, but to the one who imposes it. It is a sacred space that allows you to recover everything you have dispersed outside of yourself. Your energy, your clarity, your center. And in this return to yourself, something powerful happens. Your gaze changes. Your voice falls silent, but your presence becomes stronger than any speech. It is not an empty silence. It is an inhabited silence. Many people confuse withdrawal with escape, but conscious withdrawal is an act of inner strength. It's refusing to participate in a dynamic that's causing you to lose your essence. It's breaking the cycle of emotional dependence, not by shouting out your pain, but by walking with dignity in your own direction. It's at that moment that your energy ceases to be a pursuit and becomes an attraction, because a person who knows how to withdraw calmly, without justification, leaves a mark on the other's consciousness, a mark that even time cannot erase. Would you like me to go directly to the second section, with a different style, more incisive, more focused on the psychology of energy reversal? There's a precise moment when the dynamic shifts. It's not when you speak up, nor when you try to convince someone of your worth. It's the moment you stop running, because at that moment, the energy stops being directed outward and starts coming back towards you. Many people don't realize this. The more you insist on holding someone back as they move away, the more you reinforce their departure. But when you withdraw, the invisible game of perceptions changes sides. This isn't manipulation. It's a natural law. Attention always follows what withdraws. The human mind instinctively reacts to what it no longer controls. When you cease to be predictable, you become a mystery, and mystery attracts where availability repels. What you once gave unconditionally suddenly becomes a rarity, and this rarity creates a silent tension. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to prove anything. It is your absence, your calmness, and your refusal to fight for a place that sends the most powerful message of all. I don't need to convince to be chosen. It's important to understand that this reversal isn't a revenge strategy. You're not detaching yourself so he'll come back. You're detaching yourself to regain your inner place. The energy you placed in his hands comes back to you. And that's what changes the dynamic. It's not the other person who loses something, it's you who stop losing yourself. And this stance turns everything upside down, because the person who was used to your pursuit begins to perceive the void left behind. This void isn't an ordinary void, it's filled with your silence, your assurance, and your lack of effort. What people often forget is that predictability kills desire. What is always accessible eventually becomes invisible. But when your energy suddenly shifts, when you are no longer in the same emotional place, something ignites in the other person's mind. This isn't magical love. It's a natural reaction to losing control. What was taken for granted becomes uncertain, and uncertainty awakens buried instincts. It's no coincidence that so many people come back when they sense you've truly detached. But be careful. This power doesn't work when it's played like a role. If your silence is a disguised expectation, it will eventually betray your wound. But if your silence is the result of a true inner repositioning, it becomes a force impossible to ignore. It's this authenticity that destabilizes, not the artifice. It's not the physical absence that touches, but the energetic absence, the one that makes you feel like you're no longer there, even if you're in the same room. Reversing energy is therefore not an art of manipulation, but an art of sovereignty. It is not about making it run after you. It is about placing yourself so firmly at the center of your own world that if it wants to exist in your sphere, it must prove itself worthy of it. And from that moment on, it is no longer you who is waiting for answers. It is it who begins to ask questions. What is constantly available loses its value. This principle applies not only to objects or opportunities, but also to human beings. When you have always been there, always accessible, always ready to respond, your presence has become a habit. And what is habitual ends up being taken for granted. It is a difficult reality to accept, but one of implacable lucidity. The day your energy ceases to be a free resource, it becomes precious. It is no coincidence that we realize the value of something the moment it disappears. The human mind is drawn to what is not guaranteed. What is certain does not arouse any emotional intensity, but uncertainty creates a silent tension, a subtle disquiet, a desire that silently anchors itself. When you withdraw your emotional availability, you create a breach in a system to which the other had become accustomed. This sudden void is not neutral. It forces an awareness, sometimes even reluctantly, because what we thought was acquired begins to be missing, and this lack becomes stronger than anything you could have said. Emotional scarcity isn't a charade. It's not about playing games or feigning distance to elicit a reaction. It's an inner choice, a decision to no longer waste what's valuable on someone who hasn't recognized it. It's a silent reorganization of your priorities. Your energy stops being given automatically. It becomes selective, aligned, and intentional. And this transformation doesn't go unnoticed. It's not your voice that echoes in their mind. It's your silence. When a presence ceases to be constant, it becomes an obsessive idea. What was banal becomes remarkable. What was neglected becomes desired. It is an invisible but inevitable law. The greatest imprints are often left by those who know how to leave quietly. It is not their absence that attracts. It is the value they had in silence, and that the other was only able to perceive once lost. Emotional scarcity, when it's authentic, doesn't seek to provoke a race. It provokes an awareness. It acts like a mirror. It's not you running. It's not you begging. It's the other person who, faced with this new emptiness, must ask themselves what they've let slip away. And the more real this scarcity is, the more the echo of your absence spreads in their consciousness. It is this silent law that distinguishes the presences we forget from the presences we miss. The sound of words fades, but the void left by a rare energy persists. The more selective you become with your emotional presence, the greater your perceived value. Not because you are suddenly worth more, but because your light ceases to be scattered where it was not honored. This is the true power of scarcity. Silence is not simply an absence of words. It is a matrix, a fertile space where the most profound rebirths are born. Those who understand it stop seeing it as a void to be filled and begin to use it as a springboard for their evolution. When you stop chasing what is moving away, when you withdraw all attempts to convince, you recover a strength that you had dispersed without even realizing it. This moment of withdrawal then becomes a moment of reconstruction. And what you build in silence is often far stronger than anything you tried to save in the noise. While you are silent, something happens inside you. You learn to breathe differently. You begin to listen to yourself in a way you never did before. Your emotions, instead of being projected outward, become inner guides. Your energy stops revolving around a person and refocuses on your being. And this reorientation changes absolutely everything. It transforms not only the way you feel, but also the way you are perceived. You are no longer reacting. You are creating. Many fear this silence because it confronts them with themselves. But that is precisely where it unleashes its power. The noise of pain quiets, illusions fall away, and buried truths resurface. What you run from on the outside ends up finding you on the inside. But instead of crushing you, this face-to-face becomes an initiation. This silence is not a punishment. It is a passage that takes you from dependence to independence, from fragility to inner stability. And as you move forward in this transformation, the outside world begins to sense this change. You say nothing, but everything within you speaks. Your posture becomes firmer, your gaze more grounded, your energy more magnetic. It's not a mask, it's not a role, it's a truth that settles gently, firmly, deeply. Those who knew you before feel that they no longer fully understand you, because you are no longer the same person. The silence has given you back an inner territory that you had abandoned. The most fascinating thing is that this transformation requires no announcement. You don't need to explain your evolution to anyone. It's evident in your way of being. It imposes itself naturally, like a quiet certainty. And it's precisely this certainty that is overwhelming. It's not that you're moving away from the other. It's that you're getting closer to yourself. And in this rapprochement, everything that wasn't solid ends up falling away as a single block. Silence isn't a pause, it's a molt, a slow and powerful metamorphosis which transforms you into a person that even the past no longer truly recognizes. There is a silent threshold you cross without even realizing it. It is not a spectacular moment. There is no music, no applause, just a different breath. A peace that settles where, once, expectation occupied all the space. It is the moment when it is no longer you who hopes for a return, but you who chooses your direction. This moment marks the end of your emotional dependence and the beginning of a presence that can no longer be ignored. It is not you changing to please someone else. It is you changing to become whole again. The irony is that it's often at this precise moment that those who underestimated you begin to notice you. Not because you spoke, not because you ran, but because your silence has matured. It's no longer laden with pain, but with confidence. It's no longer an absence that waits, but an absence that radiates. You no longer seek to be seen. You have become something that can no longer be ignored. A stable, aligned, magnetic energy. The power of this shift isn't measured in the words you speak, but in the confidence you exude. The one who saw you as a given begins to perceive your distance as a loss. And this perception is not illusory, because the person you were no longer exists. You have left the role of the one who waits. You have stopped proving. You have stopped trying to save what was never in your hands. You have reclaimed your center. And in this center, you become an unforgettable presence, not because you seek to be desired, but because you no longer need to be. True power doesn't lie in bringing someone back. It lies in the ability to rise so high that even those who hurt you feel the emptiness you leave behind. This emptiness speaks not of you as a victim, but as a quiet strength. It is this strength that becomes an imprint, a trace that even time cannot erase. Because the souls who are reborn in silence are no longer the same as those who wept in noise. When you reach this point, something definitely shifts. It's no longer a struggle for attention. It's no longer an invisible war to prove your worth. It's a quiet sovereignty that settles into every fiber of your being. You no longer depend on the story you lost, because you have become the story you write. And it's this quiet transformation, almost imperceptible at first, that makes you someone who can't be forgotten. Not because you impose yourself, but because you now embody a presence that nothing can replace. The truth is, this journey was never about getting him back. It was about finding yourself again. What you do in silence builds a version of yourself that even the past will no longer be able to approach as before. When you become the center of your world again, you cease to be an option. You become a given. And it is this given that is overwhelming, that attracts, that leaves a lasting impression far more than any explanation or speech. If these words resonate with you, then don't let them fade away. Take a moment, breathe deeply, and commit to moving forward with dignity. Share this video so that other women, other silent men, may remember that they are not weak, but being reborn. And if this message resonated with you, subscribe, comment, leave a mark, not for me, but for you. Because every word you speak here is a declaration. I choose my worth.